Welcome back. And today I'm going to show you my new and probably easier to build / use Azimanak one-shot team. No RNG, by the way. And the first thing that you probably see is I am using Ainos. And Ainos has a passive that gives the unit with the highest attack a 20% CR push, which is why I'm using a rather slow BBK, because with that push from Ainos, my BBK gets the turn and can nuke the first wave. On the second wave, it doesn't matter what happens, because Straze has the highest attack afterwards. So that means Straze gets pushed ahead of Watcher. So Straze can use his S3, kill the X, do some good damage to the boss, and then Watcher doesn't get any reduced damage anymore and can finish off the boss. The damage that both of my units, Straze and Watcher, do is enough to kill the boss without anything. You will see in a second that I'm using a Rage Watcher and a Rage Straze. That's only because I'm using them in other hunts as well, and I just didn't want to bother switching gear when I want to farm Azimanak. So that's completely irrelevant, because as you see in these runs, I didn't proc a single debuff, so Rage didn't have any use at all. You have to make sure that Straze after the push definitely goes before the Watcher, so everything else is fine. And why Ainos instead of like Guiding Aether or something? Because Ainos also gives me a speed buff, and the speed buff is important for Straze and Watcher, so that these two get their turn before the boss gets a second one, just to speed up the process and, well, remove the unlucky factor of the boss attacking into either Straze or Watcher twice and like insta killing them, I guess. And also, instead of Sinji, well, that's just to not having to have a 230 high damage BBK. It just reduces the gear requirement by a lot. It's just high attack is definitely the trade-off here. Okay, so let's take a look at the units, right? That's the Ainos that I used. Like I said, she just has to be faster, let's say out of speed RNG range from the ads on the first wave, and then everything is fine. It totally doesn't matter what kind of stats she has. I gave her water gun just for the increased damage for the teammates. And, well, open imprint, obviously, to have the increased attack on all of my units. And like I said, at the end of the turn, increases combat readiness of the ally except for the caster with the highest attack, and that is the BBK that I use. As you see, she has very high attack. That's because of the Ainos passive, just to make sure she gets the CR push in the first wave, right? But she doesn't have that much crit damage and also not that much crit rate, because all she has to do is crit the first wave, and all of the ads in the first wave are light element. So she has initial 15% increased crit rate. The 189 speed that you see here, it's not perfect. 191 would be the perfect amount of speed to get rid of the possibility that maximum amounts of CR RNG at the start of the battle would give these ads a turn. It's just that the faster you get your Ainos, the lower the speed gets, because your BBK technically gets a speed buff still and then moves a little bit ahead with that speed buff. So that is also like adjustable, I guess. But yeah, besides that, technically 191 speed, and that's without Watcher imprint. If you actually have your Watcher on team imprint, you can run her on like 181 to not have any RNG anymore. And here you see the reason why my BBK needed that much attack, because my Straze has so much. If your Straze has even more attack, then, well, you have to get your BBK on higher stats then. Like, technically, like I said, Guider Aether could also work, but then you have to make sure that Straze always moves before Watcher. And, well, since Guider Aether gives a 50% CR push to the unit with the highest attack, you could run your BBK much slower and probably get that attack on that way then. Yeah, Straze, like I said, the rage is totally not needed at all. And then here's my Watcher, as much damage as possible. Like I said, he's on rage, not needed at all, didn't even proc, and yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and see ya!